It is time to move on to the business of the Women's Forest Congress. We will begin with Becky Turner, Chief Strategy Officer of American Forest and Women's Forest Congress Steering Committee member. Following Becky, you will hear from Caitlin Polihan, CEO and Executive Director, International Society of Arboriculture and the Women's Forest Congress Advisory Council member. And last but certainly not least, Leah Rathbun, Assistant Professor, North Carolina State University. So I will now turn it over to Becky.
Thanks so much, Mia. It's great to see you all. And can you hear me?
We can.
Fantastic. Great. I want to share the update of the business of the Women's Forest Congress and the Steering Committee. The Women's Forest Congress was formed over 2 years ago with an initial goal to hold our Congress in 2020. However, with the impact of the pandemic and the incredible response the Steering Committee received in forming this community, we've been able to do much more than we initially imagined. The Women's Forest Congress is more than one event. We are a dynamic and inclusive forum to develop strategies and solutions for forests. This forum continues to bring together women throughout the forest space to share, connect, shape innovations, and take actions that can profoundly impact the future of forests. The Women's Forest Congress mission includes 2 dimensions: create community and affect change. Our mission is to create safe spaces to connect, inspire, and act as catalysts for change for the benefits of forests and all who rely on them now and for the future. The Women's Forest Congress is unique and exciting for the spaces we create, the voices we engage, and the values we bring to our work together. But what is a Forest Congress? Beginning in 1882, there have been 7 American Forest Congresses. The Women's Forest Congress can be thought of as the 8th event. Each Congress held to date has been structured to embrace current forest issues and to do so through a unique lens. So too will the Women's Forest Congress. We will focus on current forest issues and look at forests through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion led by the voices of women. Beginning in July 2020 and throughout 2021, we have held virtual events in alignment with our mission and values, all of which are immortalized by our graphic note-taking artists from Urban Wild Studio and available to view on YouTube and through materials at our website. Through these events, we have continued to build toward the goal of our in-person event on our calendars for October 17th through the 20th, 2022 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Through the work to date, we have identified and refined 5 themes for our Congress. Now I want to invite Caitlin Polihan to speak to the themes of the Congress and plans for October. As Mia mentioned, Caitlin is the CEO and Executive Director of ISA and a member of the Women's Forest Congress Advisory Council and a good friend of mine. Welcome, Caitlin.
Thanks, Becky. So we're getting really excited about the current focus of the Advisory Council and the Women's Forestry Congress. We're working towards the in-person event that you just mentioned, which should be on everybody's calendar for October 17th through the 20th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. You're going to hear that several times today. So through the events to date, we've identified and refined the 5 themes for this Congress. Those themes are going to be leadership and equity for equity and inclusion, workforce opportunities for increasing recruitment, retention, and advancement, women as catalysts for change, addressing today's greatest forest challenges, and supporting each other. There's been a team that has established to work on each theme. Those teams will be collaborating over the coming months to ensure the impact of and increased support for the gathering in October. These teams are framing the invitation, setting measures for success, and they're identifying the desired outcomes for each of those 5 themes. We're grateful for the members of these teams, their leadership, their commitment, and we look forward to honoring, recognizing, and celebrating them and their work at the Congress. We're also going to be inviting your ideas for the Congress when we release our call for proposals, which has been developed with the input from those teams, and it will be released on March 15th. So please watch for that announcement next week, and I'd ask that you share it widely through your networks. Thank you to everyone who's been involved in the planning for this transformative experience in October, and I look forward to seeing everybody there in person. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Becky.
Thanks, Caitlin.
You're welcome.
So before we close this part of our agenda, I want to address the uniqueness of what we are doing and invite your support. The Women's Forest Congress is unique and exciting for the spaces we create, the voices we engage, the values we are bringing to our work together. And we're also part of a history and that impactful work of the American Forest Congress. The threats to America's forests may have been different 139 years ago when the first Congress was held. The people in the room may not have looked like us. Still, the same need existed to bring the great minds in forestry together to talk about how to ensure all people for many generations can continue to benefit from forests. Past Congresses have influenced the creation of national actions around our forests, including the creation of the Forest Service. We expect no less to the Women's Forest Congress as we help shape the space that forests hold in our lives. To accomplish our work, we will also need your support. The steering committee has prepared a sponsorship prospectus that is available on our website for you to help ensure the success and impact of the Women's Forest Congress. I invite you to download our sponsorship prospectus and to take action in ways that are most appropriate for you. Consider contributing, sharing the opportunity with your organization and networks, or reaching out to me, other members of the steering committee, or our sponsorship contact, Amy Harklerode, sorry, Amy, at amy@sonorastrategies.com with your interests and ideas. We've already received notice from people who are interested in giving. So thank you so much for those of you who have already reached out. And this slide shows you some of our initial sponsors. So I just want to thank our committed sponsors and look forward to seeing this list grow. And we will be reaching out to those of you who have indicated your interest. Now, I want to turn the mic over to Leah Rathbun of NC North Carolina State University and a member of the Content Development Subteam. She'll be addressing the theme of workforce development. Leah will provide us with an update on a research effort related to the Women's Forest Congress. Leah, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I am indeed working with some amazing women, Asia Downton and Jessica Leahy, to dive in deep on the topic of how COVID has impacted women in the forest sector. And so you may have seen, and thanks to many of you who have already filled out, a link to a survey that might come your way. I'm hoping that you'll take the minute to click on that link and answer those questions. We would like to kind of do this deep dive and present this information at the Women's Forest Congress if we're able to, if we get a coveted spot in one of the presenter slots. And the hope is that the information can actually lead and hopefully impact change in some ways. Currently, we have about 190 responses to date as of earlier today. And the survey has been sent out to everyone that was listed on the listserv for the Women's Forest Congress. We are hoping to, the questions are related to many other surveys that are out there for the wider population. And so the hope is that we can also maybe identify any unique challenges or opportunities that women in forestry have experienced over this last 2 years. So please, if you're able to click on that link and answer those questions. And of course, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of us. We are here to answer them. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Becky, Caitlin, and Leah. So many exciting things are happening for the Women's Forest Congress throughout 2022. Now that we got an update on the business of the Women's Forest Congress, it's time to hear from you. So we are going to use a word cloud. And the question that we are going to pose to you today is, what excites you about the Women's Forest Congress? What excites you about the Women's Forest Congress? And we'll wait for just a second so that the word cloud populates, and then we will get started. All right, I think we'll just use the chat box. So what excites you about the Women's Forest Congress? And I will read the chat box. Community, okay. Connection to other women and professionals, connection, networking, building community, inspiration, inclusivity, networking, engagement with peers, leadership, being in a room full of women passionate about forests, ideas, engagement, keep them coming. Connection to other women professionals, support, opportunity, connections, change, networking, building community, I love it, new solutions, networking, engagement with peers, being in a room full of women passionate about forests, meeting people, mentoring, engagement, influencing policy, connecting with other women, building community, problem solving, women leading, sharing their expertise and innovative thoughts in a collaborative space, women supporting women, yes, yes, and yes, meeting new people, learning and growth, new perspectives, women supporting women, safe space for sharing, the opportunity to lead change with amazing women, collective effort to affect positive change for forests, networking, support. These are all very important. So I'm scrolling through, ladies. Creative ideas, forestry, women, conservation-minded women, diverse thoughts, ideas, and leadership, learning from others, other women, that is, finding our voice, women creating visions for the future, informational on updates, new perspectives, feeling less alone. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I think it's very important for us to understand that we are not alone in this. And so we are creating this space so that we can create a community and really support one another. So I love the responses that you all had. Thank you all so much for engaging with me in that.